All right, so I had a company come out and they brought me an aerator. This is another brand, but a buddy of mine owns this, and I'm going to test it against the other one. I can't release what the other one was yet, but this one is supposed to be one of the best ones. And so we're going to check out the plugs in comparison from this to the other one. And I've never ran an aerator before. I ran the other one a few times, and I've drove this one. So I've got minimal experience with them, but I wanted to see how this one produced plugs at the speed. Our ground is really hard here, so it's interesting to me to see these work and also how they do in certain ground. Now, I'll show you some of the plugs that come out from the other machine. It's going to be at the GIE, and I'll release more footage on it after. All right, so as you can see, this is the one that they brought out for me to test from the other company. These are the plugs in this area, and I'm going to run this Lesco one through it on the direct same path on this side, and then I'll go across and run it over here, which the ground's a little bit harder, whereas the other one stopped. I made 2 passes with it. See some of the plugs here. You can see we've got garbage dirt. All the white in my yard is where I've sprayed the weed killer. But you can see here, these are some of the plugs from the brand that the other company had brought out too. We're gonna see how the Lesco does in comparison plugging this same area. So I've got a swipe coming this way and that way with the other brand, and you can see all the plugs. Both of these are set to around 600 PSI, and my ground as I go out gets harder through here. You can see how much littler the plugs get. So we'll see how this one performs. They're set up super similar, both brands that I've tried, but this is a Pro Air 30, and you can see here how the handles are and everything, how it's set up. This drops your tines. You've got a cedar up here. All right, so let's see what we've got here. So here's the Lesco plug. These are about 30-inch shoots. Here's one of the other brand. Let's see. Side by side, this other one's putting out bigger plugs, for sure. You can see, I don't really see any big plugs from the Lesco, but this one is putting out probably 1.5 inches. So here's Lesco and here's the other brand. Now this brand here that they sent out for testing, you could adjust the aeration plugs all the way from 1/2 inch to 4 inch. And we had it set on 4 inch plugs. This one, like I said, I'm not 100%, you know it all on these, but I don't see anywhere on here where you can set the plug. Now it has the tine pressure right here, how much pressure the tines will put out before they release pressure off of it. But as far as the depth, I'm not sure. I'll have to ask my buddy on that. But the other one had a gear driven box, chain box here, and you could adjust the pressure or the depth of how far it would drop down and put in the ground. So if you wanted to make 4 inch plugs, 2 inch plugs, 1 inch plugs, 1.5 inch plugs, that was really nice because it had that set up on there. I don't see that on this one. As far as driving, they both drive really well and about the same. Now, as far as how the box is made on them, they look made the same. The step was the same on the other one with the pedal and everything. But I like that this one's got the cedar on there. The other one didn't have the cedar, but you can put the cedar on it. Other than that, they seem set up very, very similar. But this one you can't adjust the depth for the plugs, so you're not going to get near the depth of plug. And like even over here, you can see on this is some of the plugs from that one. But we'll run a few more lines. I ran the other competitor one up through here 2 or 3 times, so I'll run this one up through here 2 or 3 times beside it in the area. I'll show you guys some of the plugs from the other company. So here's some of the plugs. That's probably 3 inch plug right there. Like I said, we had it set to 4 the whole time, but this ground is really, really hard. Now you can see where it's plugging that hole. It's that deep. And I made 2 or 3 passes up through here, and then I've got another spot where I made 2 or 3 passes. So we'll see how it does on there. See all the plugs here. Some of these are littler. See how hard that ground is? Just garbage dirt. But it's supposed to rain for a week, so I was going to do a few spots and then run liquid aeration over it and see how it broke those plugs up, because a lot of times it takes a while, and you're supposed to do this in the fall or the spring when you get a whole lot of rain, so you can make those plugs break up and you're not mowing them. All right, so I talked to a buddy of mine, and he said that it does not have the adjustment depth gauge to drop at different lengths, but basically you can turn this pressure up to get bigger plugs. So what we're going to do is, it's been running at about 550 to 6. We're going to turn it up to about 625 to 650 and see if it's pulling any bigger plugs. You just do that right here. You turn this little lever down, turn this up, and then see where it's putting the tine pressure at. All right, so this area is the hardest part of my ground, and I just turned the pressure up to about 625 to 650. Here's these plugs right here. There's a couple of different ones. Some of them are littler, some of them are bigger. And then we'll go over here and see in comparison to the other brand. Let's just set them all right here. So this one, the other brand that they brought out, they're a little bit thicker. And let's try to do big to big. So you can see, I'll turn it up a little bit more on that pressure gauge I just haven't used these much, so I don't want to tear this machine up. But you can see here, this is a Lesco, Lesco, Lesco. And this is the other brand. I'll tell later on. So you can see the difference in the plugs. All right, so I turned it up to 750 pounds. Now we're getting somewhere. It's starting to put out some good sized plugs. You can really tell at that pressure when it's putting it to the ground that it's putting a strain on this machine. Whereas if you run lighter pressure, it's not going to. So it's sticking those tines in the ground big time. But those plugs are beautiful. So besides them being a little bit littler plug, these are about the same as what you would get from the other brand. You can see here, well, that broke in half when I went to pick it up. Let me see if I can find one that ain't broken half. But you can see, here we go. See there? Now they're getting about the same size. So you can get them both to do about the same size. Plugs. You just have to find the right tine pressure. And what was odd to me is the other one, I liked it because you could just set it on the handle. Like if you want 4 inches, you just moved up to 4 inches. And then you also had the tine pressure here. So I'm not really sure why you need the thing here if you can do it on this. But maybe that sets the depth on the other one. And then if your tine hits something really hard on this, you can have the pressure low, and that way it'll kick back up. So that may be a better design on the other one. I'm not really sure if that's how it works. Don't take my word for it, but just in my mind, knowing from mechanics, if you set this one at 4 inches and then you've got a tine pressure, I'm assuming that if this hits over like 600, 700, wherever you've got it set at on the pressure gauge, that it'll release the tension on the tine, would be my guess. Like I said, you guys will probably know more about these than I will, but both machines are really, really cool. And we're going to see how, like I said, I'm going to run this over this and break all the ground up in this area. And then I'm going to take and use liquid aeration on it and see how much it breaks those plugs down. All right, so we're going to run this over the plugs and see how it breaks them down. Mix 40 gallons up. This is supposed to do 87,000 square feet, which is roughly 2 acres, a little bit over. So we're gonna see. Got the fan cooling, driving, ready to plug. So I ran that sprinkler about 30 minutes on this front part just to see, kind of like if it rained, if that liquid aeration would help break down those plugs. It's supposed to rain all next week, but I don't really think the liquid aeration sprayed on those plugs did that much difference. That's where I ran over it with a tire. But there's most of them. I don't know. I guess we'll see how many get broke up next week when it rains.